everyone. I'm so delighted to be here to be a part of this session on what will it take to make Bengaluru a global cultural destination by 2040. So I'm going to give a little bit of background before we start. In the face of rapid urbanization, we need to make a conscious effort to prioritize arts, culture, and design to drive and sustain economic and urban growth. This also aligns with the concept of UNESCO Creative Cities Network. Bengaluru, of course, as we know, is the Silicon Valley, right since the 90s, and today it remains the fourth largest tech cluster in the world. According to the 2024 Savills Growth Hubs Index, the city is projected as the world's fastest developing cities by 2033. Therefore, the time for us to act is right now. Culture is not only linked to tradition, identity, and the social fabric, but is connected with economic growth and increase in global interaction. To add context here regarding the economic growth part, cultural tourism in San Francisco generates around $1.7 billion for the city every year. Over 2 million visitors are drawn to the Uffizi Gallery in Florence every year. Almost 10 million people visit the Louvre every year prior to the pandemic. Paris is home to about 300 museums and 1,100 galleries, while London has 192 museums and 478 art galleries, and several other cultural attractions. The 2019 edition of the Venice Biennale saw over 800,000 visitors. In Asia, cities like Tokyo, Hong Kong, Seoul, and Beijing are emerging as major contemporary art destinations. Closer home, the Kochi Biennale saw around 1.6 lakh people visit in the first 20 days. This is the recent one. The Jaipur Lit Fest sees around 4 lakh visitors during the festival. Each of these cities are global cultural destinations with a distinct identity related to art and culture. Some of these cities have built upon their rich history of art and architecture, while others have constructed a vibrant contemporary art, music, and literature scene over the years. So this then leads us to what would it take to create and establish a cultural identity for our city. So I'm looking at this more of a brainstorming ideation session, and all suggestions, all possibilities are welcome. What we're going to do is 3 minutes, maximum 3 minutes for each of our panelists to come up with their opening statements, ideas, whatever, and then we'll have follow-up questions. I hope to take in 1 or 2 audience questions as well. So why don't we start with Abhishek?
Thank you. When we say Bangalore should be a global cultural destination, I think in simple terms we mean a city where culture isn't a seasonal event, but it's everyday infrastructure that's easy to access, consistently programmed, and internationally legible. Bangalore already has something rare, a high trust, high talent civic energy where residents really care for the city. And Karnataka also brings cultural depth, history, architecture, craft, performance, traditions, and literature. The raw ingredients are all here. What we now need is coherence. By 2040, for Bengaluru to become a cultural identity that joins all its dots, where heritage, living culture, contemporary creativity, design, the technology of the future with the soul of the past. It shouldn't be nostalgia, but a living proposition. Practically, in my opinion, I think there are 3 levers that are needed to work together here. The first is access. Culture scales when the movement is frictionless. When you can go from your home to the metro, to the cultural venue, maybe to dinner and come back without too much effort, when information is clear and access is simple. The easier the city is to navigate for every person, irrespective of gender, ability, economic status, the more culture becomes a default setting. The second is gateways. By this I mean entry points to culture. And they need to be at multiple locations as nodal networks and integrated. Our airport and our public spaces are the city's first impression. If your impression of Bangalore feels like a cultural encounter and not an arrival, you've already succeeded in shifting the perception. The third is programming and density. Global cities win because something meaningful is always on. By 2040, we should have a cultural itinerary every week with multiple tracks and choices, talks, performances, museum late nights, public art walks, community festivals, conferences, etc. It's the rhythm that creates the habit. Public-private partnerships must evolve from sponsorship to stewardship. Long-term commitments to programming, learning, access, and continuity. So institutions can plan not for the next season, but for the next decade. At the Art and Photography Foundation, our attempt is aligned with that very thinking, and it's the very reason we exist. Building public value through education, access, and sustained cultural infrastructure. The Museum of Art and Photography, or MAP, is one such expression, a place designed for many entry points, for the first-timer, the student, the enthusiast, for anyone and everyone, where just curiosity is enough. But the bigger ambition should be citywide. How do we infuse art everywhere and make the city synonymous with it? For Bangalore to get these basic things right, coherent identity, frictionless access, and year-round programming, supported by long-term partnerships, then I think by 2040, culture won't just be a nice to have, it will be one of the reasons, strongest global reasons to visit, stay longer, and return. We have here what most global cities don't have. Many passionate individuals who give of their time, effort, and resources just to make the city a better place for us all. And fortunately, this list is growing. They say it's possibly something in the water here. For true scale and lasting impact, what we also need is the active participation, involvement, and support of the government. And this is one investment which will pay much higher dividends than the effort put into it. It has to become a priority rather than merely being a sideline. The great global cities have not become what they are on economics alone, but have consistently and significantly invested in art and culture. How can we be an evolved and cultured civil society if we don't invest in culture? Let's not forget, culture attracts capital much faster than capital can ever attract culture.
Absolutely, very well said. In fact, I will be visiting on the follow-up questions, couple of points that you have raised, which will be addressed to you, along with the creative infrastructure. What do we need to do about the civic infrastructure to make that viable? But before that, let's hear your thoughts, Dr. Shankar.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Good afternoon, everybody. Endorsing whatever Abhishek Poddar has said, since I represent Karnataka Chitrakala Parishad as an administrator there, I want to bring to your kind notice that whatever is existing there, Karnataka Chitrakala Parishad was established in the 1960s. It is already a 6-decade-old institution which is providing premier public institution dedicated to promotion and preservation of Indian art and culture. It is a vibrant cultural hub spread across 3 acres, and today the Parishad houses an art college, 11 art galleries, a museum, an art mart, and open marketplace for artisans and craftsmen. So this is, apart from this, we have one more college, that is the evening college, also only one of its kind in the country. We established it 6 years back for those to pursue the art education who couldn't do at the right time since they are employed elsewhere. So we have created that also. Apart from that, we have signature programs. Any one of you know that one of them is the Chitra Sante. First Sunday of every year, we host a program called Chitra Sante, wherein artists from all over the country participate in it. More than 1,500 artists from this 23rd edition. We had artists from 22 states and 4 union territories, and they participated, and more than 5 lakh people visited in a single day from morning to evening. This was the 23rd edition which we had, started 22 years back. Another thing is we have a museum where we have collections of many renowned artists, including Nicholas Roerich, Sviatoslav Roerich, Dr. Krishna Reddy's prints, and many other collections from all over the country and contemporary art also. We also have annual programs of many art education, regular museum visits, museum lecture series, and many things we have in around the corner here. From last year, we started an event called Namma Art Bangalore, wherein invited artists from all over the country are invited. It is a curated show of around 100 participating, a show of more than for 4 to 5 days. Second edition this year, we are going to have it in the month of May. And another we have is there are many collectors in Bangalore whose collections are not shown to the public. From last year, we started showcasing those collections, and which Abhishek Poddar is one of the proud persons of Bangalore who have many collections. And last year we had from S.N. Agarwal's collections we showcased, and every year October we want to showcase the collections which they have, which is not seen by many public personalities. So Chitrakala Parishad in its endeavor in last 8 decades, it is imparting art education, a fine art education, has 2 colleges. We have one campus in Rajarajeshwari Nagar in 14 acres of place. We have 7 departments in it, and we also have master degrees and research center there also. And Evening College also have a bachelor degree, master degree, and research facilities also. We also have a section for fine arts, and Art Mart selling counter is also there. And we have some plans how to take it forward for next 20 years. When you come to second round, at that time, I will share with you.
Thank you for that. Ms. Mahadevan, would you like to elaborate first?
Thank you for that, and thank you for having this conversation, a very important subject. It's interesting that this conversation is happening soon after the panel on AI, because I think culture and art are one of the areas which is kind of built on human creativity, and not so much on LLMs perhaps. But adding to what Abhishek Poddar and B.L. Shankar have already said, I will not repeat, but I'd like to focus on Bangalore's strengths towards becoming a global cultural capital. And one of the things, the 4 things that are required really are audiences, artists, and venues. But I think the foundation of that already is here in audience. We have a young, vibrant, sophisticated audience which is interested, which is curious, and which shows up at events. And that's I think, a terrific thing to build on already. We also have a rich foundational base of the arts in Karnataka and in India to draw upon, which will form the creative energy given to make Bangalore a cultural capital. Artists, of course, India is one of the great world centers of various kinds of arts, the artists, in terms of performers, in terms of creative people, in terms of creating culture, documenting culture, and in terms of venues. Bangalore has, even as a city which is coping with many kinds of challenges, we have multiple interesting venues. Every year we have new venues coming up. Most recent among these has been Sabha, which was started recently, which is already so vibrant. And we have seen very creative and intersectional use of these venues by different festivals. We have seen the Bangalore Habba and Makla Habba in Freedom Park, for instance. Completely revived earlier a place for incarceration, and now it's a symbol of freedom and creativity. So in that sense, Bangalore has everything that's required for its foundation. You did mention about civic infrastructure.
Yes.
Again, coping with our challenges, I think Bangalore's civic infrastructure, I'm an optimist, and I think Bangalore's civic infrastructure is only on its way to getting better.
Okay.
rather than getting more difficult. The metro is expanding, the buses, inducting more buses is on the horizon. But more than anything else, we have a very, and I think Abhishek Poddar mentioned it briefly, we have a very active and alert group of citizens who form civil society organizations, who come together as volunteers, who form a force which brings pressure and works constructively with the government and with the local body and municipal body to make things happen. We have citizens coming together to make these festivals happen. The Manotsava, which was done last year in the Lalit, brought together a whole bunch of researchers, policymakers, activists, civil society organizations, and ordinary people like you and me to talk about mental health and to turn tables on mental health, not looking at it as something to be worried about or to fear in itself, but to see how we can turn the tables and talk about mental well-being instead. I'd also like to say that Bangalore is well positioned to actually talk about diversity and inclusion in access to culture. Abhishek Poddar's map is an example of a museum that has paid great attention to accessibility. It's setting new standards in accessibility, and that's one of the great experiences of visiting MAP. We also need to talk about inclusion in terms of creating more neighborhood spaces, small, distributed, diverse spaces. I remember during the Bangalore Habba, I listened to a Talamadle performance of Vali Vadhe in a small space in Koramangala, which I was visiting for the first time. And perhaps there were 25 other people like me, completely enthralled by this. And the entire program was free. I think we need to talk about how we can make performances free, diverse, inclusive in local neighborhoods. We have any number of spaces, venues, the Cubbon Park bandstand, for example, and even buskers, for example. Buskers, public performances, without holding up the traffic, but opening up culture to different meanings and opening up even the meaning of culture. For example, I would open it up even to a space like Church Street, which is a haven for book lovers, because culture also depends on reading, on books, on a literary understanding, and Bangalore's citizens have taken it forward by creating a Cubbon Park book club, by creating an entire monthly program where it's called Bangalore Bus Reads, where a group of young volunteers get together and read a book of their choice on a bus, go to a park, read it. These are different ways of making culture accessible through participation and through inclusion. And I really think we have many exciting things to look forward to in this area.
Right. You know, when you said that there are so many cultural events which are happening in Bangalore, and they have been happening over the years, and they're multiple. There's so many of them which are going on at some stage or the other. So the point is, how do we make it more coherent and cohesive that it does become bigger than what it is now? Since you have to leave, I would request you to answer that.
Thank you. And apologies to the audience also. I have been informed that I need to go to another discussion right now. But I will answer this very interesting question. I am always interested in ways in which we can make the whole greater than the sum of its parts. And nowhere more so than in cultural performances, cultural experiences. Bangalore's well placed to do that. We have a lot of great little museums and great little spaces. We have the National Gallery of Modern Art, which has seen, Bengaluru, which has seen a fantastic restoration in the Manikyavellu Mansion, and which has seen terrific restoration in terms of the activities and the kinds of activities that go on round the year in this, with the new director taking up a lead in programming. We have the Museum of Art and Photography, we have the Chitrakala Parishad, we have the Chitra Sante, which is a regular feature and very exciting and enjoyable. We have the Bangalore Literary Festival, which is one of the great festivals, inclusive and diverse every year. We have Bangalore Habba, the Makala Habba, We have the Manotsava, which is now becoming a national event. We also have standalone museums like the music museum. We have an entire museum for handlooms
Textiles, yes.
for handlooms and textiles. I think we need to create a trail around these museums, maybe a newsletter. We need to have museum late nights. We need to have certain days when the museum is free. I know that MAP does it. Other museums can also think of doing it. We need to have guided walks. We need to invite more people, more young people as interns, and more older people maybe as docents in the museums, because that would create greater participation and take the message of visiting the museum, maybe just to look at one painting. Maybe that's all you have the time for during your lunch break. But maybe that's the one painting that you want to just look at 3 or 4 times in the course of a month. Science Gallery does a lot of this as well, a lot of mentorship, a lot of training of young people, a lot of events. The idea being that culture can only thrive if we create a very rich, loamy soil of participation, of diversity, of inclusion. Culture has to be accessible to everybody and not just to what I call PLUs or people like us. Culture has to open doors rather than remain within closed doors. And that is something that Bangalore is very well poised to do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and apologies for having to leave early
That's
from
all
this
right.
very exciting conversation, but I hope to catch up with it later.
So Dr. Shankar, I believe Chitrakala Parishad is doing a lot more now. So would you like to elaborate on that? How it can, grow in its stature or involve more people, more audiences?
Yeah. 2 things I missed in my preliminary remarks about our collections. One of the thing is Mysore paintings, which in 70s and 80s, Chitrakala Parishad did a great job in reviving it and encouraging them to teach them and all that we have through workshops and teaching programs and all that. Another exclusive collection which may be unique in the country is our leather puppet collections. We have about 3,000 leather puppet collections, and we have preserved it and conserved it, and we have taken initiative to establish itself as a key custodian of this unique cultural heritage. Another about 5,000 collections we have in our 13 museums, that is the other part of it. Now what is the way forward for another 20 years, that is the important subjects of today. One thing what we started, as I earlier told you, that is Namma Bangalore Festival. That we started last year in a humble way. Gradually we want to take it to the level of what is happening in Delhi and what is happening in Kochi, as rightly mentioned by Uma Mahadevan. And we have I feel that Bangalore should reach the level of a Kochi Biennale some days. It is too late now. Someday Bangalore should have its Biennale. As far as other programs is concerned, now we are digitalization, lot of discussions is going on, digitization and that. We want to have a museum on wheels, take art out of Bangalore also. Some of the urban centers other than Bangalore, replicas, models and digital works, we have to take it outside. And also we are trying to join the Google also now in a days to come in this year onwards. We want to join the Google Art and Culture and provide global access to all our collections. And another thing is that we have a sales section called Art Mart, where regularly 365 days art works are sold. We want to go take it to online virtual gallery and make our artworks acquirable throughout the globe available for the global art community. These are the few things which we plan. As far as rightly mentioned about public-private partnership, as Abhishek Poddarji was mentioning, since Boravankara people are also here, there are many builders who are active all around Bangalore now in all the directions of Bangalore. The museum for music which was created in Brigade Millennium, we are discussing mostly on fine arts now. There is a lot of space is required for music, theatre and other activities in Bangalore also. Ravindra Kalakshetra is the only place which we have, and very few other places we have in Bangalore. The two are in the center of Bangalore only, which is very difficult to access. Now we should have at least good theatres in all around Bangalore, in all the directions of Bangalore. Wherever we build infrastructure and apartments and commercial places for our activities, there we should see that incorporated, we have a small theatre there and small, at least few art galleries there and some spaces for performing arts also. That
Yeah.
should be there, that should be incorporated in the plans itself, and where that government could ensure that things happen. That is my suggestion.
Yeah, it's a decentralization as well and making multiple, nodal areas for the arts. Abhishek, very quickly, one question. Since we're the tech capital, what do you think? How can we use technology to develop a coherent, culture strategy?
So I think technology would always play a good role in reaching more people, but I think we should also limit technology to some extent. I think it'll be a rather sad day if technology can replace the real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than not getting it at all, but the day it becomes equal to getting it, that'll be a sad day for culture.
That's an interesting point of view, but I do agree with the fact that we can use technology to make art and culture more accessible, maybe even immersive. And you have used AI as well.
I think in our case, we were fortunate to be born during the pandemic, where we became the first museum to launch digitally in the world. And if we had done this as a physical opening at the museum, we would have had 150 people in our auditorium. We had 30,000 people for our digital opening. And that's what gave us the confidence to go ahead and do things with technology. And I would say there are many initiatives that MAP has done which has been pioneering in any museum around the world. So we have something I'm not sure if you've seen called the Gallery on Demand.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't seen it at the museum, an exhibition gets over the day it gets over, and if you happen to come there 2 days after that, you miss the show. So how do you access it? You either go to the website and see a couple of images, or you pick up the catalog. But we have our digital gallery on demand where you can call back any exhibition that you missed. And of course, the physical objects aren't there, but it's an entire gallery where an immersive experience of the exhibition which you missed comes back on there. And we've got now 50 exhibitions on that. What we've also done is at T2, at the airport, we have a similar thing. We are now doing it for hospitals, we are doing it for universities, we are doing it for different corporates, and for other museums around the world. MAP has just tied up with the Cleveland Museum, so we would be able to access their shows and they would be able to access our shows. So there's lots like that you can do. We've done the immersive room where you can actually enter an artwork. We've got holography. You can virtually go into a storeroom and look at any artwork that you want to digitally.
Great, thanks. I think we're running out of time, so maybe one audience question, if anybody would like to ask a question from our panel. Can we do one question? Yeah, okay. Anybody has? Yes, at the back, somebody. Please make your question very brief.
This is Deepak. So the MAP has a one facilities that is called the loan of the artwork, which is the collection by kept for the MAP. So is that loan can be available for a public view?
Sorry, I didn't understand your question.
I think the MAP, they have a one artwork. Their artwork, which they kept it for themselves, as their own collection. Is it available for a public viewing?
Well, at MAP, the public is invited to come in whenever they like. We have half the museum is free to everybody every day. The entire museum is free on Tuesdays. And this week happens to be our 3rd anniversary, so the entire week is free. If I'm not sure I've got your question correctly, are you asking me if people can go there to
No,
see
no,
it?
no. My question
Is it when the collections are on loan?
No, I'm saying the permanent collection, which is the artwork, which you exchange with the other museums. Those expensive collections, is it can be public view, available for public view?
The collection that you have and that you loan from time to time to other museums,
Yes.
that part of the collection, can the public view it digitally, online, maybe?
So we have something called Cumulus on our website, where the entire map collection, whatever is digitized so far, is available to view digitally. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, you can even do it on the large screen within the museum building.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're probably out of time, so
Yes.
very briefly to sum up, we have a lot of ideas, clearly. We have the right people, we have the right audience, which is very invested in arts and culture. So I think over the next maybe few months or maybe a couple of years, we need to keep talking and discussing to figure out what else can be done in a more coherent way to make Bengaluru the cultural capital by 2040. I think we should be able to do it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you.